As a woman trying to help other women in such a male-dominant society, there must have been times when we were put into intimidating and possibly life-threatening situations or situations where people didn't listen to you. How have you learned to handle those situations?
Yeah, there have been many occasions when I've had to really engage in eyeballing people. And with my size, it's not that I was feeling very powerful at that time, but I just had to do it. One thing you must know, that when you arrive anywhere with your internal the courage issue sorted out, when you know that you're speaking the truth and you're speaking for justice, you will see that the person standing in front of you will not be able to look in the eye. You will discover it as you go along. Even in the most complex, conflicted situation, maybe gangs are fighting, you appear there and you reach out to them, you will see that you can diffuse such situations. It is what you carry within yourself, and people do get a sense of that immediately.
What was the biggest thing that you learned about yourself and how you handle those situations?
I think I'm basically a very resilient person, and I don't take no for an answer. I don't think there is anything impossible to do in this life. If you set your heart and mind into doing something, you'll be able to get there. And don't take no for an answer. You'll be turned down once, twice, thrice, 5 times, and at the end of it, people will be so exasperated with your request that they will say, okay, just granted, get out of my face. And that is something, and when they do it, they go back and they think, well, here is a person can't really say no to.
How does Hafiz you tackle the cultural aspects of gender, like circumcision and swimming? Where does the line lie between somebody and abolishing this culture?
Yeah, in the other segments of Half the Sky, you would see female genital mutilation, which is a big issue in many of the African nations, and I did have an opportunity to talk to the people who were featured on the documentary and spend time with them. I think Nicholas Christophe is a very, very sensitive and very humane journalist. And yes, it is his job to report, but he considers himself a voice for the people who have no voice. And so when he did the basic research for the book, he's always been very mindful of the local cultural issues. And when they came to film, we told the crew that these are things that you have to be mindful about. You cannot just walk into a red light district with boom boom cameras and your various kinds of equipment. First thing is to let people know we mean no harm, and this is not an exploitative game. So those are the things that one needed to keep in mind.
I was wondering if you have noticed any negative consequences of being broadcasted in Half the Sky and other media, which is that, or is it just mainly positive consequences?
Oh no. I mean, yes. Of course, we did worry about revealing the identity of the girls who've been featured, and we talked at length with their mothers and with their other teachers, elders, and everybody said, no, we would like them to talk about it because it is their life. And once they talk about it, it's like allowing other people the opportunity and the possibility to talk about it. It's very empowering when you share. So it's like taking a load off your back as well. Sharing is very important.
So women who have been trafficked, I'm assuming that as they get older, the demand for their services lessen. How do they re-enter society, like once or if they escape that system?
See, after a woman has been in prostitution for the first 5 or 7 years, the brothel owners lose interest in them. So after that they're pretty much on their own. And as they get older, they engage other younger women to service their clients in their rooms. So that is another way how intergenerational prostitution is fed or encouraged. Because older women who are no longer in an age where they can entertain clients, they have to have a living. And this happens because none of them have any education. They don't develop any other life skills. They're not able to become entrepreneurs overnight. They already have very serious occupational, diseases or ailments, occupation-related ailments. Many of them suffer from pelvic inflammatory disease or gastritis, and insomnia is a very, very common thing. So when you've not slept for maybe 25 years of your life at night, you just can't change it overnight. Many people come and say, oh, why can't they work as housemaids? Why can't they do this work? They lose the capacity to learn new things. So that's why we want to begin early, make sure that today's kids don't even tread that path.
What made you want to dedicate your life to this cause? Like, was there a specific event that stands out, or have you always wanted to help out?
Now, this takes me back to many years ago when I was in college at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. As a part of our fieldwork assignment, we had to go to the red light districts of Mumbai, and those images stayed with me forever. Because I saw very young girls behind barred windows, and those windows were locked up. Those days they were called the cage girls of Mumbai. This was what's it called? Salam Bombay days. If you have seen the film Salam Bombay, you will see certain vignettes of how things were. And, those visits impacted me greatly, and I had kind of decided if I were ever competent enough or trained enough or found myself strong enough to work with any group of people or set up a project, I would do it with the women in prostitution and their children. Because they're, as I mentioned, even in the documentary, they're truly at the bottom of the ladder. Because you have different layers and layers of people who have nothing. And then you have the Dalits. And women in prostitution are even lower, placed lower in our social hierarchy than the Dalits. So that's how I chose to work with them.
I was wondering if you ever been in politics or consider going into politics to change the system from development or anything?
I think it's a serious consideration now. I'm thinking about it.
So now having this background about what's going on and all these things, the most important question to me is, how can I help? Like, what can we do to do our part in helping the cause?
Okay, on the 28th of October, we are launching a video, a campaign, a Stop Rape campaign. It'll have a 5-minute video and a petition which we plan to take to the President of India. Once it is online, we hope to send it viral, and all of you can actively engage in it and send it out to all your friends around the world and get people to sign the petition. This is to demand 16th of December, the day the girl in Delhi was raped and murdered. That day to be declared as Nirbhaya Divas, the day of the fearless, and to demand that day to be marked as a day for zero tolerance for rape in India. So that is something all of you can immediately engage in, and I am counting very, very heavily on all of you for your extraordinary social networking skills. What you people can do, our generation, we are not even able, our brain doesn't go there. You can't even imagine how you guys do that. And other than that, when you go back home or when you move to your next location, keep talking about it. Keep talking about issues that disturb you. It is very easy, as America said at one point in time, to go out and get a coffee, check your text, or send an email, or meet up with friends on the street corner cafe. But when all of that is done, you come back home and look at your face in the mirror and say, well, I did this one good thing today. And you're all leaders. You have to build your body of work from right now on. Thank you.
Not all the women, I know I watched this part of the movie, but not all the women want their children to come to New Light. How do they feel about you taking their children and educating them? Like, what is their views before and after?
Right now we have kind of a waiting list. When we started, we had only 8 kids, and all the kids from the first batch of 8 have finished their almost university education and doing professional training. So it was all about creating an example. Because women didn't know any better. They didn't know if they could send the child to school and how their lives would be transformed. It was about creating examples and creating symbols and creating a process that could be verified. Okay, this has happened already. So if I send my child to the school, to the New Light shelter, he might be able to get these opportunities. But that is not to say that there aren't women who say, no, I'm not interested. And when you dig deeper and try to figure out why are they saying they're not interested, you would very often discover that they have substance abuse or alcohol dependence, or they're seriously into drugs. So they're not even a mental space to think that something great would happen in the lives of their kids.
For these girls and women that come into New Light, how do you work with them emotionally to sort of alleviate all the tension and pressure that's built up throughout the years? I was also wondering, what are you doing specifically for the male side of this issue, and what kind of progress are you making with the brutality and gender identity?
We have counselors and therapists and professionals who help the kids. All the girls at Shoma Home, they have their individual counseling session, and therapy as and when required, depending on the recommendation of the counselors. Right from the beginning, we started to work with the boys and the girls, because we are talking about changing a community. And when you deal with a community, you cannot say, okay, only girls are important. Yes, we have tried to treat the girls a little preferentially. Whenever we have thought about a new project, our focus has always been, okay, fine, let us do it for the girls first, and then the boys. So in a couple of weeks, we are going to have our boys' shelter, which is called Khalaghar. It means the playhouse. We already have 2 homes for the girls, and we are putting a home for the boys in place. They have a football camp. They go to do rowing. We send them for trekking. We send them for doing yoga, or go and watch a cricket match, take part in music. So all the opportunities that we make available for the girls is there for the boys too. So when you're looking at a family, if you just provide opportunities for the girl, you are creating a greater divide. So what people do with their opportunities is eventually a question of their own potential and inclination, motivation, but it has to be available for everybody. Thank you.
Are there any, have you made any plans for expansion to other red light districts in other cities?
In Calcutta, post Half the Sky, there was a student rebuild contest online through which New Light received a grant of $10,000 to launch something new. We are doing that in a different red light district of Calcutta. We have partners in Nepal and in Bangladesh where we work on anti-trafficking issues. We also have groups that work very closely with us in Goa, in North Bengal, but haven't yet set up outposts in those areas.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you had 2 for girls and 1 for the boys. What are your reasons for separating
The shelters by gender.
Our shelter that's open 24 hours and that's located in Calicut is for everybody. Because it's kind of a semi-residential situation. But as per the state welfare directives, you have to have separate residential homes for girls and for boys. It's like, you know, all the practices you have for correction services everywhere.
Since India has many religions in it, has there been any religious views on this issue?
I mean, whether our leaders...
Support your cause or because I think that's why I know that India is very conservative, has conservative culture and mostly comes from all the religions that it has. So having prostitutes kind of contradicts the whole idea of how conservative they are.
So if you look at the history of how this trade has evolved, you would read about the Devadasis who were dedicated to the temple deities. They were supposed to dance in front of the gods and clean the temple yard and accept the god, the male god, whether it's Krishna or Vishnu or whoever, as their consort. But what happened in reality is that the temple priests were using these women. So they were Devadasis. Devadasis mean the servant of the god, but they were used by the temple priests. So even they have not really talked about, okay, this should not happen, or this should happen, or they should be freed. It has always suited the males of the society. And as far as New Light is concerned, we are a secular organization. We have no religious affiliation. Everybody is welcome, everybody is treated equally, and that is how I would like our organization to be remembered.
Are there any prospects for New Light to start educating the adults in the area?
Yes, we already have. We've had a program with the Seventh-day Adventist Church who wanted to do an adult education program, and the mothers are, they were involved in it. So it's like just basic literacy, very, very basic. Because it's hard to take them away from their earning time. These are all very complex issues, but knowing that the kids are going to school, actually it's the kids who are reading out stories to their mothers, which I feel is a wonderful situation.
If you have, or do you have a dream for New Light? Like you said, in 5 years that you're hoping to get a few hundred people involved. If you take that dream, but if you think about it on the scale of India, what would you hope for in 5 years? What do you hope to see, and what do you think is a realistic goal?
I would love to see many other cities, the big metropolises and the smaller cities, trying to put similar interventions in place. It's about replicability. If this project has succeeded, it can probably be replicated elsewhere, and it should be scalable. If you're reaching out to 1,000 people or 5,000 people, we should target at reaching out to 5 million. For that, what we need is a group of very committed, dedicated, and driven people. Funds will never be the problem, I'm sure. The problem will be manpower. You need to replicate the vision and the hard work. The vision can be replicated on a piece of paper and have it nicely mounted on every location, but what is hard to replicate is the hard work and the ability to stay the course. But I'm sure we'll get many, many soldiers, and it will happen, hopefully.
I also wanted to ask, since we read Sold, some of the kids were interested in hearing about your work with them, because last time I was there, last summer, I met a gentleman who was filming for a documentary, and he was involved in New Light and used some of the girls there to take part in the documentary, if I'm correct.
Sold, the book has now been made into a full-length Hollywood production. It's been, it was directed by Jeffrey Bean, who did Wonder Years. Most of you would not really know about Wonder Years. It's an Emmy Award-winning television serial from a number of years ago. And the producer is Jane Charles, who's also been involved in many other Hollywood productions. It will be released in February. Because the plot of Sold is linked between Nepal and Kolkata and Bengal, they decided to get in touch with us and met many of our the beneficiaries, the girls, the mothers, the police officers, the teachers in the project, and created interface between the actors and the real life characters. So we are very deeply involved in the making of Sold, and we are happy that Lakshmi's story is going to be seen by people around the world. I have seen the first cut and was very impressed. Fantastic visuals from Nepal. I don't know how much departure there has been from the original story to the screenplay and then finally in the movie form. But I'm sure all of you will find it very interesting.
Do you think that a grassroots approach is more effective for real change versus direct lobbying and political agendas?
I can't really say what is more effective because I have been a part of one only, and it's been my kind of, I've done the grassroots level work all along. But lobbying is equally important because unless there is somebody talking about our work and what we feel and what the real situation is in Delhi, talk about it in Delhi, how are we going to get anything done? So for our Stop Rape campaign, we are doing this, the petition, the real petition and the virtual one, and taking it to the President of India. Straight to his office. We are not going to any other intermediary. And we'll probably do a sit-in and say you have to address this issue. Because there's been no release from the President's office or from the Prime Minister's office excepting for saying sorry. And since capital punishment has been declared, a number of cases have happened where the victim is being murdered. Just as of last evening, there was a horrific case in a suburb in Kolkata. This young girl was raped and murdered because now the perpetrators don't want to leave any witnesses. anybody even to go to the police and lodge a complaint.
And the organization, who helps you? Like, how many volunteers do you have? Like, is there a demand for volunteers? And what are the requirements to be a volunteer?
There are the staff strength of New Light. Full-time staff strength is about 33. And then we have another 15 people who do the support work. And we always need volunteers. We need people with all skills. We need teachers, artists, theater people, puppeteers, musicians, writers, accountants, logistics people. Anybody with any skill is required as well.
My question has two parts. It's about fundraising and the organization. So what is your biggest, have you found is the biggest group of donors, and what is the best way you found to get donations? And my second question is, how does the Indian government interact with your organization? So I know in the United States we can be a nonprofit, and there are other organizations that get government help. How does yours interact with the Indian government?
In terms of funding, I can say, if you look at the list of donors, United States stands at the top of the list, with Spain being number 2. Then we have Germany, then we have Switzerland and the UK and Australia and New Zealand. We've had volunteers from around the globe. And as for the assistance that we get from the Government of India, we are a registered charity with a tax-exempt status. We are granted a status of ATG, which is when people contribute to New Light locally, they get tax benefit, tax relief. Other than that, we have not received any direct grant from the Government of India, and it is not that, I just can't only say we haven't received, we have not really applied for, because it's a huge effort to apply for a grant for maybe 2 lakhs of rupees and spend 6 months just doing the paperwork, and ultimately when you divide that money amongst the beneficiaries, it probably comes to 33 paisa per person per day. So I think it's a total waste of time. And we have not received any grant from any of the big foundations like Ford Foundation or the Gates Foundation or the Aga Khan Foundation. The reason for that is we are still very small. Unless you can show that you have effectively handled $1 million or more, they don't even look at you. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. First you have to get big, then you get bigger, but nobody tells you how to get there in the first place. And we have other kinds of assistance from the Government of India. Through the West Bengal State AIDS Prevention and Control Society, we access condoms and distribute that among the mothers. We also get a lot of help from the police. They're like a phone call away as far as New Light is concerned. If we tell them, okay, we suspect this child has been trafficked, or we want to find a safe shelter for her, or please, these girls have gone missing, could you please try to track them? And they always direct us to the right place. And I feel it also has a lot to do with how you approach them, and when they find meaning in what you're doing, people do help. Thank you.
You just touched on 2 things that I was going to ask about. One, what's the impact of AIDS in the community, Hyderabad in general? And then secondly, what's the penalty or the fine put on someone who's caught trafficking, or a man that is caught in prostitution? What is the crime and the penalty that's associated with the crime worthwhile to deter anything, or is it so small that it's easy to perpetuate?
As far as the incidence of AIDS is concerned, 13 years ago when we had started the national data was that it was 0.03% of people who were infected, but I have seen a definitive rise in the number of people who have been infected. Even if I just take a community, a sample size of maybe 1,000, and now it is not 0.03, it would probably be 0.5. So it's quite an alarming situation. What we are completely ignoring is the transmission, mother-to-child transmission, and also the neonatal clinics or the antenatal clinics that we have in our government hospitals. We are trying to track figures from data from those sources. But most of the time, it's not possible because people move away from, once they are detected as a test positive, they just choose to go away. It's a very difficult thing to work on any kind of treatment regimen or protocol and convince people that yes, this is what you need to do and that you have a possibility to survive. And as for your second question, it's only recently that a few fast courts have been set up to deal with cases of trafficking, and the penalty is a financial penalty and incarceration if the person is found guilty, and the prison term can be anything between 3 to 5 years, and it is actually a non-bailable offense. You have to serve the term if you're not guilty. And I think all of those things are working in favor of the NGOs and working in favor of the lawkeepers, the law enforcement agencies, so that they can really go after the traffickers. Earlier, if a trafficker was arrested, he would go to the police station, would be kept in the lockup. Next morning, when he is presented in the court, he already has an anticipatory bail, or some of his cronies would come and bail him out. So now it's no longer the situation. So we are happy with these developments now.
Do you see boys being prostituted in India? And if so, what do those communities look like, and how do they differ from the kind of cycle of debt and bondage and such in the female prostitution ring?
We would be completely misassessing the situation if we think that trafficking or prostitution are targeted only at girls and women. As per the report on Saptameva Jayate, 50% of the entire population of India are sexually abused as children, and 54% of that 50% are boys, which is an alarming figure. And boys suffer in silence. They never are able to rarely identify their abusers, because it's got such deep cultural issues that as a male you are supposed to be this macho guy and be able to protect yourself, and then you fail. And there are just so many issues involved in there. Also, a lot of young gay men are abused, and some of them, due to the circumstance that they come from, do become prostitutes. There is an expression in India which I don't think exists anywhere else. It's a group of people called MSM, men who have sex with men. They are not gay. It is just that regular adult males who have sex with men. These are again very complex situations. And you'd find that they are married, they have children, and yet they have a male partner, or not even a partner. There's probably nothing even emotional or romantic involvement there. It's just a way of finding one's sexual release.
So in the video we saw that India is one of the few places where the brothel owners actually kill the girls. So I was wondering, why is it so violent here, especially?
I think Nick has talked about it in the documentary. The lives are so cheap, and when they kill a girl off, there is no family that's going to come and look for her, claim her, or go to the police and have any kind of legal action taken. A child lost, a child dead is a child dead. That's the kind of attitude people have. And when we talk about lodging a complaint of missing children, in most occasions we are unable to find even a photograph. So when you don't have a photograph, what reference do you give? The families in the villages don't have pictures, did not have. But thankfully, today, with the usage of mobile being the way it is possible to get photographs. Though it might be hazy, badly shot, but it is possible to have photographs on track.
We've talked about males and females, and in anthropology we're going to talk about the third gender in India, which is the hijras. And hijras are a pretty complex issue in that they have religious ties, but then prostitution is also rampant in the hijra community as well. Could you talk a little bit about hijras and their ties to prostitution, and maybe if we get crazy, talk about religion as well in a few minutes?
Well, hijras are, as most of you know, I don't know exactly what would be the correct expression or the term to use, whether we should call them transvestites or transgender or transsexual, because these terms keep on changing all the time, and it's a close community. Some of their practices you would never know. Practices like how they're cremated, or some of their kind of within community celebrations are not something that many people know about, and very little information is there in writing. But a lot of them today are getting kind of breast implants and removing their genitals or restructuring those to become complete, to appear as women. Many of them are in prostitution. I know quite a number of them in Calicut, in and around, and in other places as well, other red light districts. But they don't essentially live in the red light districts. They have their own areas, and usually there is an ustad, like the master, one master, who is a protector and who is a mentor, and he is the one, he or she teaches them how to get clients, and how to dress, and how to go to the temples and beg for alms and stuff like that. But it's again a sizable community, and it is there in all cities, even in rural places. If you have any other questions about the hijras, we will. They are born with a different kind of, a very complex physiological condition, where they're indeterminate physiologically. I mean, you cannot say this is a male person or a female.
Do they become hydras willingly?
No. When a newborn is when a child is born in a hospital or at home, and the doctors or the nurse or the midwife realizes that physiologically it cannot be determined as male or female, the hijra community is informed, so they come and take the child away, and he's raised by those people. They're kind of separated. They don't reconnect with the families.
And that's by choice every single time?
Now it's changing, because I'm sure today's parents are also thinking differently. But earlier, it definitely was that the ustad would come and claim the child. It is kind of a special a social protective net because you're amongst your kind of people. And that was probably the reason. Many of the things that have happened here traditionally were probably for good reason, but over time got so completely misshaped and misinterpreted. It became a very unpleasant situation.
Just quickly, if hijras, they can't have children. Okay. If so, are young hijras taken into can they join the new Light?
To work? Or to grow up with us?
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So, is it common that prostitutes would often have children and they be hijras?
Not common, but it's just a matter of probability. You know, like out of so many numbers, there would be a child that's born as a hijra, and we would embrace him completely. And there is nothing that will keep him out of the family of New Light.
So in certain countries there is a particular problem with international sex tourism. And I was just wondering how much of an issue is that in India?
It is an issue, but it is not so much of an issue in Kolkata. I've heard, it's an issue in Kerala, it's an issue in Goa, it's an issue in parts of Orissa, but it's a kind of only occasionally that we hear of cases when people have thought about coming to West Bengal or Kolkata as part of their, identified it as a destination for sex tourism.
You talked a little bit about the reluctance of politicians and other figures in society to talk about sex.
I'm just curious, where do you think that this reluctance comes from?
It's probably the way we are raised, and it's never talked about, and there's not been I cannot claim that I'm the only one who talks about it. There must be 10 million people who are talking about it, but probably we don't have our leaders who are willing to talk about it. They're worried about their votes. We talk about sexuality, we talk about women's protection, equal rights, and we talk about the hijra community, and we talk about gender violence. So these are issues that's not going to get you additional votes, because these are issues that are not going to go away in a short time. You can say, okay, I'm building a 5-kilometer super highway, and you can show people for sure at the end of 3 years that the highway is in place.
In regard to what Danielle was just speaking about, the taboo of discussing sex, is that so Indian schools completely disregard that conversation? Do you think if Indian schools were more proactive in teaching sex education and health and safety, that conversation could begin to develop? Or is it a product of a lack of discussion in school that keeps the taboo ongoing to not talk about?
There was a time when the Education Ministry had actually initiated sex education classrooms from class 8 onwards. And it is there even now, but it's just so completely neglected and kind of wished away. We don't see any results coming out of that. But schools are the places where we should begin. And as soon as young children become adolescents, the moment they start having the changes in their own bodies, they need to know what's going on in their environment. And that's the only way we can protect children from being abused.
I want, of course, to thank Urmi, but also to thank all of you for being so interested and engaged, and the New Light students especially, who put time and effort into creating that book with me in Argentina, just for me to be able to share such a personal experience and to share how Urmi inspired me more than 2 years ago now on my visit. It means the world that I can come into a school as a new teacher and have the support of so many students, and that we're still
carrying on the conversation. As Urmi said, another thing you can do is just keep the conversation going. And it's been over a year now, and we're still talking about it, and we're still working towards it, and now Urmi's here. So anything's possible. Thanks for everyone who participated today, and for Urmi especially for your work.
On behalf of Global School and a small New Light team, I would like to thank you for offering us an opportunity to try to address this issue of child trafficking in India, and of course for taking your time this morning to share your valuable experiences and outcomes with us.